What's up, metalheads? I'm Jamie. This is the Blades and EDC channel, and welcome to episode 4 of Versus, where we are going to put up the Brian Brown Yeager up against the Christensen Knifeworks Maverick. So I can clearly see there is a difference in length here, so I get that. But why I wanted to do these two was they are both Reat made knives. Similar materials, similar blade shapes, both have hollow grinds. Very, very cool knives. Two very well made knives, Reat made knives, and I think they will make a great versus video, because I think if you're looking at buying this knife, you're probably also looking at buying this knife. I think if you like either one of these knives, you're gonna like the other knife also. So I think they'll make a good versus video. And very similar materials used to make these knives. This one does have zircotie, pocket clip, and pivot collars, and back spacer. Or not zircotie, zirconium, excuse me. Pivot collars, back spacer, pocket clip. This one's just titanium, but you can get this one with Damascus collars and pocket clip, and I think you can also get zircotie. You may even be able to get zirconium. I'm not sure about that. I know there's a lot of options for the Yeager out there. So two very, very good looking knives in my opinion. Lay them out here next to each other. Yeah, both very well done by Reat. And as you can see, the Yeager's got some length on the Maverick for sure. But depending on your hand size, for me personally, I would prefer the size of the Maverick, no doubt about it. Perfect for my hand size. I wear a medium-sized glove, and I still have a little bit sticking out there, as you can see. Fully choked up, and you can choke up here a little bit, but you gotta be careful. That's a sharpening choil, not a finger choil. And on the Yeager, you know, if I fully choke up, there's a lot of knives sticking out back there. This isn't uncomfortable for me or anything. Don't take that the wrong way. I still really like this knife. But with this one, I've got enough there. I can get my finger in there with a medium-sized glove on that choil. But, you know, you wouldn't want to be doing any of this with it, just for push cuts. So, yeah. All right, let me give you the specs on them real quick. Okay, the overall length on the Yeager is 7.6 inches, and the overall length on the Maverick is 7 inches. The cutting edge on the Maverick is 3 inches, and on the Yeager it's the blade length's 3.5 inches, but I think the cutting edge is just slightly under 3.5. So there, you know, almost a half inch more cutting edge on the Yeager, and you also have a little over half inch of length with the Yeager. Blade thickness on the Yeager is 156 thousandths, so it's much thicker. And on the Maverick, it does not tell me what it is on the website. No, it does tell me it's 130 thousandths, so quite a bit thicker blade. Surprising thing with this is the weight. The Yeager barely weighs any more, if at all, than the Maverick, but I'll show you why that is in a minute. Let's weigh them real quick. I thought the Maverick would be quite a bit lighter, but it's not. There's a lot of milling inside that Yeager. Whole lot of milling. Alright, the Maverick weighs 3.6 ounces. The Yeager weighs, well, Yeager doesn't like to stand up that way, 4.3 ounces. So 3.6, 4.3, 4.3, 3.9, hold on. Let's zero these up. Yeah, I know what it is. I'm sitting this knife up here. I need to sit it in the center of the scale, so let me slide it back and do that again. Alright, the Maverick 3.8, the Yeager 4.3, so 0.5 of an ounce more on the Yeager. It's quite a bit larger knife, which you know, I thought it would weigh quite a bit more than it does, but if you look down in there, look at all the milling in there. The entire scale on the show side's pretty much milled out, different sections of it, and it's pretty thin. It's cut down a lot of weight on this knife. This knife would probably be up around 6 ounces, I would say, if they hadn't done all that milling. But with all that milling, it makes it feel very light in hand for its size. For full-size knife, it feels extremely light in hand. And this one feels, I don't know, chunkier in hand. The scales on the Maverick have a lot of contouring, as you can see here. Contouring is hard to get to show up on camera. There's a lot of contouring there, which makes this thing extremely ergonomic. Makes it feel really good in hand. Really like the way this knife feels in hand. With the Yeager, no contouring. It's just a flat scale. They have chamfered the edges down, so there is no. It's comfortable in hand, but not as comfortable as it would be if it was contoured like the Maverick. This feels good in hand, but the Maverick definitely wins in the ergonomics section, in my opinion. Now, action. That's the one everybody cares for, because we got M390 blades on both of these, hollow grinds on both of these, right? I mean, they're going to have very similar cutting action, very similar sharpening. It's going to have the same heat treat because they're both from Riat, so I'm sure they're going to be, the blades are going to perform pretty much identically. I can almost guarantee that, although I haven't used either of these knives, right? These knives are just sitting for me to check out. This one belongs to Julio, this one belongs to Craig. This one's getting some color added to it. Julio was just letting me check this one out. Thank you to both those guys. But the blades are going to be very similar, right? Very similar blade shapes. Although this is a true Wharncliffe, the Maverick does look like it has just a little bit of belly, not by much. The Yeager's just straight edge. So, but both of these for utility cuts, it's just going to be fantastic. Push cuts, going to be fantastic. I think the push cuts would probably win on the Yeager because of how thick the blade is and the fact they left it flat on top. So you can really, your thumb feels really comfortable there like that. On the Maverick, as you can see, they've put a swedge up here. So as long as you stay right here by the pocket clip, you're good. But once you get out here, it's not sharp, but it would become sharp if you had your thumb there for long periods of time. But right here is where it feels good in hand anyway to me. So I don't think, but I have a medium-sized hand. So a larger hand, you may want to be out here. Keep in mind, you got that swedge there, and it's pretty thin. So that could become be discomfortable after long periods of push cuts like that. So something to keep in mind. All right, let's talk about the action. So obviously that's the other big difference between these knives. You got thumb studs and you got a hole. All right, detents. The Yeager, it's got a pretty stout detent, guys. And the action, it's really good on the thumb or the reverse flick. Very good action. You do got to give it a little more pop to get the blade out there, and I think that has less to do with the detent than it does with the weight of the blade, because once you pop it, the momentum of the blade, you can feel that blade. It's hard to explain, but all right, the Maverick thumb studs, detent on the Maverick. It's really good also, guys. Very, very good. I don't think any of us would expect any less from a Riat made knife. But the action on this one, it is definitely snappier. I prefer the action on the Maverick for sure. I think it feels better, it's smoother, it's even better on the drop. This thing is pretty much new still, so as it breaks in, it will become a guillotine. There's no doubt in my mind. It takes very little. And keep in mind, I'm not vertical right now. I'm at an angle doing this, so it may look vertical on camera, but I'm not straight vertical. This one's also new, so this will break in pretty good also, but I don't think it's going to break in as smooth as that Maverick does. Something else about the milling inside this knife, it gives this knife different sounds. I don't know how to explain that, but it has a hollow sound to it. It's strange, I know. It has a different kind of sound for titanium, and I think it's because of all that milling, would be my guess. But this one is not nearly as smooth as the Maverick. The Maverick is much smoother right now. That may change after I disassemble it, nano, and lube it up again. But I haven't lubed either of these knives, the pivots on them, so I've just wiped the blades down on them. But this one is much snappier and feels much more glassy on the action than the Yeager does. The thumb studs on this are fantastic. They work so good, so comfortable. There is no sharp edges. There are no sharp edges. You just kind of pyramids up slowly, but it's not done where they're sharp. And yeah, it works really, really well. They work really well on the reverse flick or the thumb flick. The price on these, the Maverick is $380, and the Yeager, these were right around $350, but there's so many different variations of the Yeager. I'm not sure what this one runs. This one does have a backspacer, a crown backspacer, titanium. This one has a zirconium, that has a jimping. This is going to give you a little bit of grip on your palm, but you know, I don't think it's really meant so much for grip as it is for aesthetics. No lanyard hole on the Maverick, no lanyard hole on the Yeager. And that's pretty cool. Not even a lanyard standoff or anything. They didn't even care about lanyards, which I think is a good thing. I don't think most of us want lanyards on our knives, so on most knives. But yeah. Which one would I pick? I would go with the Maverick. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. It feels better in hand. It feels more premium because of the contouring. It just makes it feel so good in hand. To where this one, and this is a larger knife, and I have a medium-sized hand, with it being so flat, everything's so flat, it's just not the best feeling. And the action's definitely better on the Maverick. That may change in time as they break in. It's hard to say for sure, but as of right now, as of today, the Maverick has much better action on the thumb flick and the reverse flick, and on the drop for sure. So can you hear those sounds? Let me move this out of the way. Actually, on sounds, the Maverick wins too. Listen to the ting on the close. Now listen to the Yeager. Listen to it as a start to close the blade. Hear all that? Just makes some strange sounds. Here's the ting. It's got more of a thud, like a hollow thud, and I think that's caused by all the milling. When I say this thing is seriously milled out, I mean it is seriously milled out. Almost all the scale is milled out, and it's down. A lot of it is milled out, so it's very, very thin in there. And on this one, it's harder to see inside this one. This one has milling also, quite a bit of milling, but it's not as thin. They didn't mill it down as thin, so it's thicker in the milled areas through the scale. This one's going to be super thin, which I think gives it that sound. It's got to be that. So I give the ting to the Maverick also. I give the aesthetics to the Maverick. I give the action to the Maverick. And I give the ergonomics to the Maverick. I mean, on this one, for me, the Maverick is a clear winner. Now, if you have an extra large hand, you may feel differently. You may prefer the Yeager, you know. It may feel better in your hand. But, you know, these are both done very well. But if I didn't know they were both made by Riat, I don't think I would believe they were both made by Riat. I think I would think the Maverick was, but this was probably Bestech or something. But these are both made by Riat and done very differently, although all the same, pretty much all the same materials, very, very differently. I guess it all comes down to the design, and I definitely prefer this design over this design. It's a pretty easy one for me actually on this one, so not even a hard choice for me to make on this one. Alright guys, if you own either of these knives, comment down below. If you own both of them, let me know which one you like better. I'd love to hear what you got to say. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new, subscribe, turn your notifications on, and I will see you guys on the next one.